So, hit the north. What's the point? Simply to start conversations with people about their lives and the north, including the north of England, and to make you laugh, cry, and more aware of people, places, and ideas unknown to you before. So, it's my gaff. What are the ropes? What's the structure? Roughly 2/3 of each episode will consist of a free-ranging chat with a special guest about their life and works, what they do and feel. Expect the odd digression to occur. The final third will consist of the same broad questions each time, exploring the guest's identity in relation to place and their feelings about the North and how it has been culturally represented. I'll soon give you a preview of the questions with my own responses. It's all rather an open forum. If you want to take part as a guest in this podcast or suggest anyone else who would be good, email me. All you have to have done really is to have done something at least vaguely interesting in your life. Interesting or unusual, nothing more than that. So yeah, the email address will be at the end of the show. Also, please spread the word. If you like this podcast, rate it on Spotify and Apple, etc., and pitch into the Facebook group. And in your contributions, be blunt, be civil, be kind, be strange, be ace, be like Trevor Chaplin, Jill Swinburne, or Jeff Vick from Birth of a Nation, David Leland's 1983 Central drama. Nah, you don't necessarily have to be like a teacher. Anyway, before we proceed any further, who am I? So I'm your host, Tom May. My family come from Coventry in Greater Manchester. Going further back from my mum's ancestry research, Northamptonshire, I believe, going back to human origins, Africa, of course. Where have I lived? Well, Wigan, Washington, in Tyne and Wear. Then from 1985, the largely working class city of Sunderland in Hendon, poised right between leafy Ashbrook and the gritty old East End, pretty near the city centre, or the city from 1992, of course. I am the son of teachers, but both of whose families in previous generations have been working class. So in a middle class home, living within a very socially mixed, economically divided feeling area. I've also lived in Cambridge 3 years, Sandyford in Newcastle upon Tyne for 8 years, and now Wylam in the Tyne Valley for 5 years. So school, there was Valley Road School in Hendon. I don't have too clear memories of that place, but certainly, mixed, fraught. I was definitely getting involved in fights and stuff. Barnes Infants for a year, then Barnes Juniors, 1990 to 94. Largely wonderful years. Great teachers, particularly Mr. Manford and Mrs. Earle. And I have fond memories of kicking apple cores and stones around in the playground in impromptu football games. Also doing a record number of book reviews written out in pencil in year 5 and becoming a school librarian in year 6. And a trip to Derwent Hill. So I went to Southmore Comprehensive 1994 to 1999. I had a mixed time there really in the first 2/3 of my time there. It was very much an intimidatingly big comp. Some tough times, but I gradually found my people there. And there's some great teachers, Mr. Ball, art, Ms. Amos, history was superb. And there was some other good ones as well. And I made several friends in 1998, really, early 98, who I'm still close with, 2 of whom I even did a pub quiz with recently in the Peacock pub in Sunderland a month back. I went to City of Sunderland College to do A-levels after that, which I really enjoyed. Sociology, English, Lit and history. Did well enough to be pushed to apply for Cambridge University, and I got in and went to Trinity Hall. It was a surreal, mixed, scary, difficult, wonderful, odd, interesting one and a half years, really, was the terms are so short at Cambridge, going to the formals, sort of dressed like Harry Potter figure, bringing a bottle of wine, wearing these gowns. And after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did another course. Straight away, really, in 2004, I did a film studies master's degree at Northumbria, which I really enjoyed. I'd long liked films since the late 90s, really. I'd got into films that had been on television, particularly, and recorded them on VHS tape and got into film that way. So I did a film studies master's. Again, some really good teaching there. Elaine Chaplin, Andrew Shale, and Peter Hutchings, particularly, who supervised my master's dissertation on 70s British cinema. So I really enjoyed that. During that, I'd got a part-time job working in the Gate complex in Newcastle, in what was still just about the Odeon cinema. I think it became Cineworld or Empire by the time I'd finished. I never remember which. I really enjoyed doing that job and seeing a bit of the cinema industry from the bottom up, really. And I took a lot from that job, serving nachos, being responsible for tills, making sure screenings were running smoothly, tidying up and stuff. And again, was really liked all the people I was working with there. That was a very diverse, interesting crowd of people. It was great sort of job to do. And I remember getting free tickets every month with the pay as well. I think it was 4 pairs of free tickets every month, and they paid for taxis home to Sunderland as well, as I was still living at home. Different times, the noughties, certainly in terms of work, there seemed to be lots of opportunities, and I managed to get a job at Newcastle College, the sixth form bit of it, teaching general studies in 2006, covering for a member of staff who was on paternity leave at the time, and he didn't come back, and I sort of took that job, got a teaching qualification. So I started without any teaching qualification at all, just straight in the classroom, struggling to deliver lectures about romanticism to A-level students. But gradually I got a bit better after being terrible to begin with at teaching, I must say, and developed techniques, and something I've always enjoyed since, really. I worked at Newcastle Sixth Form College for 12 years, 2006 to 2018. From about 2011, I moved to sort of teach English language, English literature, English language and literature, and communication and culture. But I was also developing an academic interest again, and delivered sort of random papers at a few different conferences on Cold War spy fiction, literature and film and television, particularly television. And the interest in television I'd had from like watching Doctor Who at a young age now became geared towards research. And in early 2017, I managed to be able to attend this great I Am Hist event held at Northumbria University, very handily, very near where I lived, where I presented the idea to do a PhD about Play for Today, the BBC's strand of one-off single plays that ran from 1970 to 1984. Just so little had been done about it, and I personally wanted to watch all of them, track them down and everything, and have that venture and investigation of what it was all about. What were these plays actually like, really? So they had this legendary sort of status and all seemed very lost. But, 90% of them do exist, and I managed to finish watching all of them, I think, earlier this year. But yeah, I managed to get a funded PhD at Northumbria, wonderfully, for 3 years. And it took 4. This was from 2018 to 2022. Due to the pandemic, I shifted the methodology towards recording oral history interviews. And I have spoken to over 100 people who worked on play for today in all sorts of roles, from production designers to actors to directors to writers to producers to costume designer, assistant floor manager. So I really enjoyed that. And in parallel with the end of the PhD, I started doing a lot more teaching at Northumbria, and I am now an associate lecturer in the hierarchy of Northumbria, teaching sort of various modules, lots of media modern modules and film modules I've taught, and I really enjoyed that. Taking my experience of teaching at the college, at universities, has been great. And I have continued my research, and next year, my book, Play for Today, A History of a Democratic Television Drama, will be published by the British Film Institute simultaneously in hardback and paperback. So I'll be very proud of that achievement. The best moment of my life, though, was getting married to Rachel on the 6th of July 2019 in Tully House in Carlisle. Which oddly leads me on to the idea for this podcast, really. I've started a new research project that is about Northern representation, broadly speaking, television, film, and potentially all the other cultural industries as well. So journalism and theatre and art and everything potentially included. I've always been passionate about this topic, as well as television itself, how places, are shown on screen. And say I've lived in the north of England for 41.5 years, roughly. So as a Northerner, I'm really interested in exploring Northern identity, what we ourselves as Northerners think about it, and how we've been represented over time. So now we'll launch into the questions for this podcast.
What does being Northern mean to you?
Marginal, overlooked, patronised, when every place within the North is in itself very complex. It's also, I would say, a fresh space for candour, an independence provided by distance from the metropole of London with its cultural and political power and how it pulls people in. Of course, I would stress with this podcast, we're not having a go at ordinary Londoners at all. There's a bit of a difference between the aggregation of Londoners in Greater London from the media elite, say, and political elite that are based around Fleet Street and Westminster, certainly.
What do you see as the main attributes of Northern people and places?
Well, generalising is generally a bit of a fool's errand, but there are paradoxes, really. People can be friendly, people can be insular, depending on the context. Socially and geographically, people and places can be bleak and warm, sometimes, both at once. So I write in my forthcoming Play for Today book about humour being a Northern working class survival mechanism, as in Alan Bleasdale's TV work is definitely running through Sophie Willand's Alma's Not Normal. So that's very crucial, I think, to people, whether they're in Liverpool, Sheffield, Manchester, Newcastle, Bradford, Leeds, Sunderland, Carlisle, Middlesbrough or Preston, say. Their senses of humour, of course, are not all alike. What's the number one myth the North or Northern people you think needs consigning to history or oblivion? Universal hospitality, uniform poverty. I think those two perceptions are simply wrong, and people need to be aware that it is as diverse as the South. I mean, statistically, it has done worse economically than the South since the Thatcher era. Even, before that, the trend had begun, but slower. But I think being specific is really important, and these ridiculous generalizations that I'm sure a lot of my guests are going to skewer.
Does the North-South divide in Britain exist? And do you have any opinions about this?
Yes, I think unquestionably it does, though there are many nuances, clearly. But even in the Industrial Revolution era, the political power still rested in London. Look at the events of Peterloo in Manchester in 1819 and the subsequent righteous campaigns of the Chartists in the 1840s. I'll say more of what I feel in certain episodes in response to guests.
What's your favourite place in the North and why?
At times, it's definitely been Alnmouth, the coastal village, Northumberland. I should also emphasise Sheffield. I've only been about 3 or 4 times, but it exerts a really deep appeal to me. I love the University of Sheffield's archives that I've visited. There's great, friendly staff, and there's some fascinating collections there. Hawley, Pulp, Park Hill Brutalism, Human League, Heaven 17, ABC, Threads, Cabaret Voltaire. Enough said. But overall, I'm going to have to just about say Newcastle upon Tyne, really. There's always so much more varied stuff going on in that city than Sunderland, which I knew much more. And I always would go to Newcastle much more, really, especially in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And I think Sunderland, though, is much improved compared with what it was in that era now, that the Vaux site has finally been developed, and there's a lot more going on in terms of arts and culture than there was. But yeah, I'm going to have to go with Newcastle for that.
What's your least favourite place in the North and why?
Well, for now, I'll just go for. And apocryphally, during the Napoleonic Wars, the people, well, no doubt a group of men, put a monkey from a shipwrecked French vessel on trial, sentenced it to death, and killed it there and then.
What's your favourite Northern institution or organisation or public space?
Now, this is such a tough one. I'm just going to give a bit of a gazetteer here. Tully House, Carlisle, where I got married to Rachel. Great pubs, Cumberland Arms and Crown Posada in Newcastle, the Fitzgerald's chart room of old in Sunderland. Sadly, all gone this year. The Alum Ale House, South Shields and Ocean Road's Curry Houses. Roker Park, 1898 to 1997, RIP. And I think my main two would have to be Sunderland City Library, just for its mind-expanding portals into all sorts of topics. I regularly went to that building on Forster Street, which for a long time also had a Northern Gallery for Contemporary Art, which was great as well. And Newcastle upon Tyne's Star and Shadow Cinema, a community interest company and cinema and music venue space, which is run on collectivist, anarchist lines. It's a wonderful place, again, that has opened my mind to different voices and new ideas for a long, long time.
What's your favourite Northern book, graphic novel, photographs, or artwork? Pick one of these.
Well, visually, I love the work of Tish Merthyr, the photographer. Art-wise, I love Norman Cornish's work. I've seen an exhibition at the gallery that's at Northumbria. I won an L.S. Lowry mug, oddly enough, at a school writing competition, aged 5 or 6, writing about a particular figure in a Lowry picture. He doesn't sound the nicest gent, mind, but I do like Lowry's work. I don't really know enough about comics and graphic novels to have a go at that one, but those are favourite books. That's one I'm really going to have to research and think about a lot more. I mean, there's ones like Gillian Avery's A Likely Lad comes to mind, like a great children's novel. That, in terms of latest Northern related books that I've read, I think are great. Dave Russell's Looking North, England and the National Imagination, 2004, and Lanry Bakari's We Were There, How Black Culture, Community and Resistance Shaped Modern Britain, from this year.
What's your favourite film or TV programme of any kind set or shot in Northern England, and why?
Oh, that's an incredibly tough one again. I mean, there's great series like When the Boat Comes In, Our Friends in the North, Dinner Ladies, The Royal Family, say. But I'm going to go for two, really, on reflection, while also mentioning the film Billy Liar as a key one. Going to go for the TV screenplay Road, 1987, written by Jim Cartwright and directed by Alan Clark. Brilliantly shot in northeast England, but broadly set in northwest England, which is very fascinating in itself, but brilliantly played, bleak and funny, and ultimately life affirming. And my other pick is the sitcom Early Doors, BBC Two in the 2000s, which I think is just a superb archetypal picture of northern warmth and community. Definitely just a very lovely sitcom, that one.
Could you please nominate one unfairly overlooked northern person to be on this podcast's Northerner roster? And please explain a brief reason.
So, overlooked, clearly not Stephen Graham, nor Sheridan Smith or Sarah Lancashire, then, say. Tough, but just off the top of my head, Colin Welland, I think, who's been an acclaimed figure in his time, definitely, like for different reasons in the 1970s and the 1980s, but seems to be completely forgotten now. But he's a great link between Z Cars and Play for Today, and I think he epitomises that whole Northern grammar school educated British New Wave era, his performance in Kes, and the Play for Today era, in that he wrote so many great ones in the 1970s, and people should be watching Roll on 4 o'clock, without doubt, is a masterpiece, and Kisses at 50, and others. I think he could see and perceive very clearly what was going on in Britain and what was changing.
Could you please tell me your selections of 3 songs or pieces of music which deeply express the North to you? NB, they don't necessarily have to be from Northern artists. Please explain brief reasons for your selections.
First pick really is the KLF, It's Grim Up North. Or was it was the Justified Ancients of Moo Moo, I think, It's Grim Up North, from the early 1990s. I think that encapsulates the grimness, the bleakness, the toil of industrialism fading away into post-industrialism in the mechanical, technological, decaying post-industrial North of that time. You're talking 7 or 8 years after the miners' strike and the crushing of organised labour in this country. And I think it treads an interesting line of, confirming stereotypes in some way, but then like reclaiming, almost a transcoding, as Stuart Hall would argue, of the stereotypes and a reclaiming of them, a sort of subverting of this idea of grimness and the bleak. Places in the North will have felt very bleak at that time, with the void that was left by Thatcherism, whole industries like steel in concerts, for example, in County Durham, just gone completely. The whole employment of that place was based around steel, say. There's a lot that is inherently bleak about that reality there. And my second choice is going to continue the bleakness without doubt. This is Jake Thackeray and Old Molly Metcalf, a 1972 song by the very French chanson-influenced Yorkshire songwriter Thackeray. He was on television a lot. And this is just beautifully bleak. It captures the loneliness and coldness of a particular geographical and social climate. Very much rural Swaledale we're talking about here.
She was sent to mind sheep up on the moor as soon as she was able, the age of 8. She scarcely left the cruel place and was found rotting with her ghastly sheep at about the age of 28. Here is a song for her. Old Molly Metcalf counting sheep, yon to the mother pip she counted. Up upon Swaledale steep and bleak, yon to the mother pip she said.
But to finish, I have to emphasise warmth and the camaraderie of Northern life, which was brought most wonderfully to life in my, say, theatre-going experience by Samuel West's production of Alan Plater's Close the Coal House Door, which I saw at Northern Stage in the early 2010s, which is just an absolutely uproarious, wonderful night. It's very much a play about Northeast identity and working class identity. And I'm picking Alex Glasgow's As Soon as This Pub Closes, an absolutely wonderful song about community, politics, I think like a deep truth about Northeast life in that post-World War II era, very much still retaining memories of the struggles of the 1920s and 1930s.
I'll fight the nasty racialists and scrap the colour bar and all fascist dictatorships and every commissar. As soon as this pub closes, as soon as this pub closes, as soon as this pub closes, I'll man the barricades.
The final episode of this particular first series of Hit the North will have a few other selections I think are just as magnificent. So there we are. That's the end of the introductory episode. Tune in next week for the first episode proper. Matthew Kelly. And we've got a great range of guests in this series, particularly focusing on the Northeast and the Northwest, I would say. And there's a Welsh guest and a Scottish guest as well. So the idea of this isn't simply to speak to Northerners in any essentialist way. It's to speak very widely to people around the country, discussing different people's experiences in a really comparative way, which would be really interesting. Now, you get that cover on now and start listening to all the other episodes if you're tuning in from 2026 onwards. That's a blunt Northern order. That's it for this week on Hit the North. Editing, idents by Tom May. Stings by John E. Robinson. Thanks to myself. Monologuing was September 2025, and the music featured was The Justified Agents of Moo Moo, Jake Thackeray, and Alex Glasgow. Hang on! Want to be on the podcast or suggest a guest? Email hitthenorthne41@proton.me. Send us your favourite Northern songs, places or stories there, or in the Hit the North Facebook group, and you'll get shout-outs. If you've enjoyed this, spread the word on social media or in person, and follow at Hit the North UK at bsky.social. Don't miss the Hit the North playlist on Spotify.
Hit the North, Maz.